everyone, welcome to Hacky Lessons. If you're new here, my name is Joe, and with set 2 of the One Piece card game Paramount War coming out very soon, so too is One Piece's first foray into a pre-release tournament. So if One Piece is your first card game, you might not know what to expect, so here is your guide on what it is and how to approach it. Not to be confused with Super Pre-Release, which was just a special one-off tournament to celebrate the beginning of the game. Pre-release is a common event for most card games, in which 1 week before the actual set releases, card shops get the opportunity to sell product a week early and hold sealed tournaments. The purpose of this is to give small business where you usually play a leg up on the bigger retailers that don't actually have a play space yet do get more of our sales. So our sealed tournament is a special tournament where you get 6 booster packs from the new set and you build a deck from it. The way the rules of deck building in One Piece card game work make it virtually impossible to build an actual deck from 6 boosters, so there are special rules in place for this format. Normally, you can only include in your deck cards that are the same color as your leader. However, that rule is put aside for sealed. It is important to note, however, that color restrictions as described on cards text will still apply. So, for example, Buggy, he can search for a blue impel down. He specifies a blue impel down, so therefore you cannot use him to find a purple impel down. Now, instead of building a 50 card deck like usual, you get to build a 40 card deck for this format. And instead of cards being limited to 4 copies, you can actually have as many as you want, though it's worth pointing out that from 6 booster packs, it's highly unlikely you're going to pull that many copies of the same card. You'd probably be lucky to get 3 copies or something. So One Piece has a problem with sealed that Dragon Ball Super and definitely Digimon never really had to worry about, and that is there is only 1 copy of each leader card in a booster box, not including the old art. So out of only 8 packs in the 24 packs of a box will have leaders. So it's very possible that from your 6 booster packs, you might not pull a leader card. To deal with this, Bandai have allowed in the rules that you can bring your own leader card from home, any of the old ones from the old set. This is going to give a wider variety of strategy for the event, and I'm going to talk about more of that coming up later in the video, but for now, I should also point out that you're going to want to bring your own Don, because you're only going to get 6 Don from your boosters. Once you have built your deck and maybe you've played a game, you might find you regret a choice or 2 in your deck building, and the good news is that in between games, you can swap cards out from the rest of your pools from your 6 boosters that you didn't use. So all the other cards from the boosters is treated as a sideboard. In addition to your 6 boosters, you'll also get a Smoker promo, and you'll get a pre-release pack which just has 2 cards in them, common or uncommon, from the set that will have pre-release stamped on them. You should be able to use these in your deck construction, although that might be up to your store's discretion. Winning the event will also get you a special winner stamped version of that Smoker promo. So now let's talk about some ideas how we're going to go about winning that Smoker promo. As I said, you can bring any leader, so let's quickly run through the ones which might be good. Also, while you are packing your things, do remember to also pack in your 10 Don and a set of sleeves for your deck. Something to consider for your leader choice is, does it have a generic enough effect to be useful no matter what I pull? Of course, you can bring multiple leaders and decide after you've seen what you pull. Something to consider for your leader choice. Does it have a generic enough effect to work no matter what cards I pull? Of course, you can bring multiple leaders and decide on which leader you're going to use after you've seen what you pull, but there are some leaders that aren't going to be useful no matter what you get. So the number 1 leader I'm thinking in regards to that is the Red-Green Luffy leader. His ability only works on Straw Hats and Supernovas, and there is green Straw Hats in the set, but for this leader to be good, you want to be able to say that your deck is like at least 50% Straw Hats, and that is not going to happen. So its other problem is it is a multicolor leader, so that means it only has 4 life. Usually that is a fair trade-off for the fact that it has access to two colours. But in this format, every leader has access to all of the colours, so that advantage trade-off is no longer there. While the other multicolour leaders might have a bit more generic effects, they are still low on my preference list because of this 4 life. Though that said, I would say the best option of them is Trafalgar Law, because although the usual intention with the card is you will swap a red for a green or a green for a red with his leader ability, the actual wording just says that you swap a card that is a different colour. So he might actually be able to thrive in this format. Other leader cards not to even consider: Doflamingo and Shanks. And if you pull a Smoker leader, I'd be wary on using him as well, unless you have pulled enough of the black cards to fuel his engine to make his ability consistent. The rest of the leaders are pretty good and generic, although some of them might depend on your pulls, like Odin or Kinemon, because they require 1-0 country cards for them to really get their effects. Whitebeard is a good one if you are comfortable losing a life every turn. So he might be easy to play that in the constructed format, but it's not as much as a downside as you might think. So you basically get to draw an extra card every turn, and with his power at 6,000, it's harder for your opponents to go through. If you can play aggressively enough, the leaking life won't come into play too much. Some obvious good choices are, of course, Zoro and Kid, but there's an outside choice that I'm kind of tempted on using, and that is Uta. Coming from playing many pre-releases in Dragon Ball Super and Digimon, there is one thing that I've always found to be true, and that is vanillas go good. So they're low play cost with strong power, and that is a good combination when you can't build a deck to a regular and consistent strategy. There are plenty of vanillas in every colour in the set, and Uta is, of course, the queen of vanillas with her ability. Paying 1 Don to boost a vanilla's 2k is good value. Though that said, you could just play the Luffy leader and instead attach 1 active Don and then 1 rested Don with his ability, and that's essentially the same cost/result value in a way. But before you start the tournament, and you may have read all of the cards and come up with some ideas of what you want to include in your deck, strategies and so forth, and I am here to tell you that it's basically a waste of time. And it can, in fact, hold you back if you lay beholden to the things that you thought about beforehand. So you're only getting 6 packs, and the odds are very low that you actually pull any of the cards to pull any of these ideas that you had off. And even if you do, you're probably only going to get like 1 copy of each, so it's not going to be very consistent. That's important to remember as well. If you do pull a few cards that go together in a chain, like for example the green Straw Hats, so they're chained together nicely, and you can't expect to actually pull that off during the game. So like, if you have Rook in your hand and you're like, I'll wait until I draw the Robin to play it, you might end up just losing because you had a chance to play a character, you didn't, and then you didn't have enough board advantage. So it's not worth trying to get that strategy off because it's not going to happen consistently enough for you. It's better to take your deck building as you see it once you've opened your packs, and so to your games, take it as you see it. Focus less on clever combinations and more of a simplified game of just solo attacks. So when you do receive your 6 boosters, you will have a time limit to build your deck. So you're going to want to use that time well. It will depend on your store, but my best guess is you'll probably get half an hour. As you open your packs, sort the cards. Unlike Dragon Ball, you don't really need to worry about colour as much, but it will be still good to sort them into colours so that cards that work together well will be grouped together. Or you could sort into play cost and make a separate pile for cards that go together if you want to keep track of them and see if you get enough of them to be viable. Not to go against my previous tip, but if you do pull a few cards that chain together, don't rely on them, but you could still throw them in there, and if they come off, that's great. And then while you're sorting, remove any cards that don't work at all. Be that they specify a leader that you're not using, or they're specific to a strategy that you just have no way of pulling off. And now, it is exciting when you do pull a good card, a nice alt art or whatever, but at this point, you need to be all about business, okay? Contain yourself. For one thing, you need to focus on building, you've only got a time limit, And another thing, it's in your best interest not to shout out to everyone else in the room free information about what good cards they can expect you to have. Speaking of good pulls, if you are lucky enough, you might find at the back of your pack a nice little ace card with a manga background, manga alt art ace. This is, as you probably know, a very, very valuable card. It may be a good strong card to actually play, but unless you're a madman who intends to max rarity your deck at obscene levels, you probably have no intention of playing it. You'd probably rather grade it or sell it to a collector or whatever. So in that case, obviously don't put it in your deck. You risk devaluing it, and you might ruin its chance to get a good grade. Fact of the matter is, you should remember, if you think not including it is going to cost you winning the Smoker promo, well, you can just sell Ace for more than enough money to buy a playset of the Smoker promo, so don't even worry about that. And on that note, if you do pull any alt arts that you don't include in your deck, make sure you sleeve them up just to protect them. So although your deck is 40 cards instead of the usual 50, you're still going to want to keep in mind some regular deck building foundations. Keep them in place. Namely, make sure that you have a good amount of character cards and a good amount of them with counter power. Nothing's worse than you have a nice big hand and you can't defend anything because none of the cards in your hand have counter power. Also make sure to include blockers if you can. Obviously, you are at mercy of what you pull, but hopefully you'll get a couple in your booster packs. 2k counters, they're always important, but don't prioritise that stat line in place of good attacking cards. And keep in mind curve. So you want to make sure that you have a good balance of cheap, medium, and expensive cost cards. So you can pretty much always play something every turn from turn 1 to turn 10. And now to talk about playing. So, like I just said in the last deck building tip, hopefully you've kept a good curve to your deck, so you'll have something to play every turn. The moment that you pass turn without playing a character, you're going to lose advantage. There's no doubt about it. Unless you're playing Whitebeard and have the Ace, SR, there are no cards with Rush in this set, so you can't rely on that to help you out. So you're going to want to make sure that you can always have a board. Unlike a regular tournament, where you can make a reasonable, educated guess of what your opponent has in their deck and what they could be planning, in this format, there's absolutely no way of knowing. So you're just going to play what's in front of you and don't hold back. Assume that they have no way to wipe your board. Just play your characters with confidence. And even if they're playing a black leader, they probably don't have all the tools to do black stuff, you know. They won't have the ways to reduce the cost and the KO the zero cost. If they do leave Don up, don't stress about the possibility of an event card that could hurt you, because odds are high they left the Don up because they had nothing better to do with them or they're just trying to bluff. And it doesn't really matter anyway because there aren't any cards like Red Hawk in this set that will hurt you in that way. The closest to an event card you're not going to want to let them use is Deathwing, and that's just because you don't want them to draw. Other than that, my best tip for you is to just play as well as you can with everything that you've learned throughout your time playing the One Piece card games so far. You should do well if you take all that in. Good luck. I hope you come away with some good pulls and that winner Smoker promo. See you later.